Welcome back in the kitchen again with Lindsay Brooks from Runaway Spoon, an area pastry chef and caterer, and we made one of her favorites when she's craving that quick comfort food, you know.
Yes, just something quick to put together that's going to make you feel good.
I know. And
Tuna melt.
Yeah, but an upscale version of it, but still really cheap to make. Again, this is one of those sandwiches you'd probably pay, you know, 15 bucks at a restaurant to make something like that.
Yep, and it should cost you no more than $2 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, open face with artichoke hearts and is it Munster cheese?
Munster cheese, yep.
Tomatoes.
And you can see how it gets nice and toasty around the outside, which I really like. And then you have to pay attention. The cheese needs to get a little bubbly and a little toasted to the top, and that makes it perfect.
Yep, and then that's a knife and fork kind of thing. And
yes.
Bowl of tomato basil soup, and whew, I'm all good. So this is one that you say you end up making this a lot.
Yes, so I always have bananas on hand. So sometimes they're overripe, sometimes they're not quite ripe enough, but I always have bananas on hand. I always have oatmeal on hand, and I always crave baked goods. That's just my nature.
Yep.
So being able to throw together a banana bread, quick, easy, with ingredients that I always have in my cupboard was essential for me. So this recipe got creative because of that reason. And then I, of course, like the health benefits of having the oatmeal in there with the potassium from the bananas. So, and I'm all about easiness, so if you have a KitchenAid or if you just have a hand mixer, this recipe goes together in one bowl.
Love that. Now, you were talking a bit about bananas. Now, these look perfect and wonderful, but when they start turning a little bit, that actually makes really good banana bread. You put them in the freezer. I have not gotten the habit of doing that, but I know a lot of people do that. Tell me how that works.
So you want to peel them, so if they get to be too ripe, but you don't have time to make banana bread, or you just have an abundance of them, you want to go ahead and peel them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and freeze them.
Okay.
I don't mash them up, I don't slice them, but I do peel them first because once they thaw, they're pretty soft and they're hard to work with.
Okay.
But if you have them in a Ziploc bag, for example, you can just open the bag and squeeze the bag into the start of a recipe that you're using.
Great idea.
You don't have to work with it, you don't have to handle it. And then for me, my recipe is always 2 bananas, so I freeze them in 2 banana packages so that I know exactly what to use.
Awesome idea. So just let them thaw quick, like in the fridge or out on the counter or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. If they're a little icy in this recipe, they'll bake up just fine.
Okay.
So just let them thaw overnight or out on the counter for an hour or 2.
Don't throw out those overripe bananas.
No, don't. They have so much great flavor to them.
Yeah, so peel them, get them into a Ziplocker, and let them thaw and use them in recipes down the road. Okay, so put me to work here.
All right, so you can go ahead and peel the 2 bananas and throw them into the mixer, or again, if they were coming out of the freezer, throw them straight in there.
Do you need a knife to slice them up, or do you break them up?
The mixer does a really good job. If you didn't have a stand mixer and you were using just a handheld mixer, you may want to, break them into a few pieces or so, just so that they don't come shooting out of the bowl on you. But the mixer's pretty powerful. The bananas should be ripe and soft, so they'll kind of mash up a little bit too. And then I also add the sugar right at the same time, so the sugar kind of helps break down those bananas too.
Okay, so 2 bananas, a little bit, a half cup of sugar?
2/3 of a cup.
2/3 of a cup?
Yep.
Okay, and get that going.
Yep.
Okay. Now we've got a loaf pan here, and we are going to spray it. Baking spray. They've come out with baking spray, which is awesome. So in my pantry, I usually have olive oil cooking spray, regular cooking spray, and now baking is great.
Yeah, they have baking and they have grilling too, and there is a difference in them, so you want to make sure you use the right one.
Totally. This actually has some flour, and you can smell it. It smells a little bit sweet. You don't want to be using the baking one in your casseroles and things. It's going to give it a sweet taste, and it's not what you want. So, and the grilling is great for spraying the grill. So okay, so this is breaking up a little bit. Do you want it chunky or do you want it pretty?
It's definitely your own preference. I like it a little bit smoother because the oatmeal already has some texture that goes into the bread, but it's really what you like. Chunks of banana is your thing. We like chunks of banana too.
Okay.
All right, so then we're going to go ahead and add 2 eggs to this. And you're looking just to mix it together. This isn't something that you're trying to incorporate a ton of air or anything like that. You just want it all to get mixed together.
Okay, so it's a quick bread, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it by hand, but this is kind of an easier way to do it. You can be measuring, spraying your pan, doing other things while this stage is going on.
Okay.
All right, then we're going to do 1/4 of a cup of just regular canola oil. You could do melted butter in here if you didn't have oil in your cupboard.
Good to know. Okay.
A little bit healthier with the oil. And then buttermilk. And I think we've talked about if you don't have buttermilk, you can use half and half. Do a teaspoon of lemon juice and let it sit for a second, and it'll actually curdle itself.
Okay.
So
can you use, what if you don't have half and half? Can you use milk?
Milk will work too.
Milk with a little bit of lemon juice.
Yep, and let it sit and it'll kind of curdle itself. If you have heavy cream, you can always use heavy cream too in its place. You just want some type of milk product to go into here. The best is, of course, buttermilk. But if you didn't have that, you can always work with other stuff.
Okay.
And then as far as the leavening agents, you've got baking powder and baking soda. you're going to go with a tablespoon and a half of baking powder and a little half teaspoon of baking soda. So
okay.
That's going to be the leavening it. It's still a quick bread. It's still nice and thick and rich, but you want to make sure that you've got non-expired leavening agents. That's something that...
That's a good tip.
Some people kind of forget about, but you know, if you have that baking soda box open for a while, it's not going to give you that lift, and you won't know it until it comes out of the oven.
And that's no good after you've already went to the, you know, it's cheap enough anyway. Throw out the box or put it in your fridge to absorb the odors and then move on.
Exactly. Yep. Just a pinch of salt goes in here. You always want to do salt with your baking.
Okay.
It helps act with the leavening agents, giving it that bounce.
That's a good tip. I just like the taste of it. I love a little salt in my chocolate chip cookies.
I like kosher salt too. It stays a little bit coarser.
Cinnamon, is that?
Cinnamon, about a tablespoon of cinnamon or to your own liking.
Okay.
And a good tablespoon of vanilla extract. So you've got pretty much all your wet ingredients in there, including the sugar and then the leavening agents. And the last thing you're going to do is add equal parts flour and oatmeal. So it's about a cup of each going to go in here. And you can add them all at the same time.
Bake time on this, Linz?
350, and it takes about an hour. You want to do that you want to do that toothpick test. You also want to rotate it halfway through the cooking time so that it bakes evenly.
Smells fantastic. It's not even baked yet.
So that is absolutely perfect, Amy.
And those really, really ripe bananas are even going to give you more banana flavor.
You can always throw nutmeg in here too, or you can throw a handful of blueberries into the recipe. Just change it up a little bit if you have the stuff on hand.
All right. So into the loaf pan we go.
And you'll know it's done when it starts to smell like cinnamon in the house and it starts to get
We've got a loaf right there. Do you want to slice it up?
Yeah, you want to let it cool, so you can pull it out and just let it cool for about an hour or so, just so that it's cool enough that you can get your hands onto it to cut it open.
And we'll let Lindsay slice that away. It's beautiful, the color on that. Lindsay, thanks so much for sharing your dirt cheap but delicious recipes.
Perfect.
That looks fantastic. All it needs is a little butter on top. A little pat or two of butter. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank
We'll be back.